Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Gary Gregory. He's going to teach us all how to become super fantastic leaders. We'll explain next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think you'll agree with me that there's a leadership crisis in many companies. There's a lot of young people who are being promoted into leadership roles, but they're so young, they're leading people who could be their mom and dad's age. And so what is the secret to becoming a super fantastic leader? We're going to find out from the great Gary Gregory. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, Jeff, thank you for having me here. It's great.
Well, we met through a mutual friend. Shout out to Joel Zeff, an amazing speaker. And he says, you got to interview my friend Gary. And I went over some of your materials this morning as I'm writing the show, and I'm blown away. I mean, so how did this journey begin for you?
So it was this particular journey, or writing the book, was a conversation with my wife. And my wife and I were driving down the road one day, and we had an intense discussion. And the discussion was about what is the difference between principles and core values. And so she and I were having this intense discussion, if you was, husband and wife do, and we couldn't agree on the definition. And so I'm a bit of a nerd, I'll freely admit, and so I really started digging deep into what are the definitions between principles and core values, because I truly believe that once you understand or once you own your principles and core values, then there's something that you're able to elevate yourself. And so my wife and I and our kids, our 4 kids, we went away and we had a family retreat. And in this family retreat, we ended up identifying our core values. We went, we had these huge pieces of paper on the window. We went A through Z, all of the words. And we ended up coming up with a set of core values. We got them, we wrote them all down. We signed, all of us signed our core values, got them home, framed it, set it up on the wall. And after some time, I started asking more questions. I'm like, well, how do we live these core values? These are words, and there's just a variety of words.
Yes.
But my wife and I had this conversation of like, how do we truly live it? And so that led down a rabbit hole in which I ended up writing this book, Super Fantastic Me, and ended up coming up with 3 sets of words, word types, if you will. If you own these, then I believe your leadership, not only your professional, but your personal leadership is truly transformed. And I don't like to throw the word transformed around or transformation, but what I uncovered in this book, or the way that you can map out and discipline yourself as a leader, is uncovered in this book.
Yes. And so many young people are still trying to find their style. Some of them are imitating a boss they had one time. And what's the secret to finding your voice as a leader?
Exactly. So through my research, I broke it down, because for me, I'm a very simple individual, and I like to understand the very root, the origin of where I can grow from. And so what I did through my research and identifying core values, business core values, personal core values, I really broke it down to 3 words: your who, your why, and your how. And so I identified who answers the question, I am, who I am. Your why answers the question, because, I do this because. And then your how ends up answering the question, how I will do something. And so what it broke down to me was that your who becomes your leadership calling card. Who am I? Who do people recognize me as? So when I walk into a room, I'm not an effect of the room, I become an affect of the room. I transform that room when I walk in, because when I walk in, people know my word, and I know my word, and I've owned my word, and my leadership calling card is this. And so when I walk in that room, I'm an affect of that room. I change the temperature of that room, and that's the who. Now your why ends up becoming your principles. And this comes back from my wife and I having this conversation. I figured out that why is truly your principles, because that is your foundation. It ends up being, why do I make these decisions? Why do I think the way I think? And that why answers that question. And then ultimately, which I'm so excited about, is the how, the core values. I think a lot of us follow, or we absorb, the core values of the company that we work with. There's these static, abstract nouns on the wall that a lot of people say, okay, I'm working for this company, so I don't have core values, so I'm just going to adopt these core values that are posted on the wall.
Right.
But I become this person at work, and this is my way of being. But when I come home, I code switch, I change. And so what I identified is, if you can own your own personal set of core values, and that understandingly, you realize that's how I operate, that is how I do things, because anybody can do anything, but it's how you do something that sets you apart. And so I said, okay, let's let core values be this, that answers the question, how I will. And if you understand, or if you own and absorb your own set of core values, you become the same person at work, and you become the same person at home. There's no code switching, or core value code switching, if you will, because that's exhausting, because you're one way at work, and then you come home and you're another way. So a lot of times, a lot of us will give our best at work, but when we come home, we give our leftovers. And so what I'll say preach, what I love to preach is, own how you will do things. And so when you go to work, people understand, all right, Jeff's got a set of core values. I know Jeff's core values. I know his leadership calling card. I know why he does things, and I know how he's going to do things. So Jeff's going to add value because he's identified and he owns, and he's going to add value to those set of core values sitting on the wall. And now your wife, or your husband, or your kids know, dad, mom, brother, sister is going to be this way, and this is what I know to expect. And that creates trust, that creates loyalty when you've identified. And I think that's a lot of, you mentioned earlier, young leaders. I don't think they lead through design. They end up leading through default. They're watching a lot of people on social media, and they're like, I kind of like how this person is. I kind of like how that person is. And so they're trying to mimic other people. But what people are truly gifted, everyone has a gift. And if you equip it and you steward it, then you become who the world needs to be. And I believe you do that through your who, your why, and your how.
Wow, so profound. He's an amazing keynote speaker. We're going to put some video up on the screen. This is a sizzle reel that you came up with a couple of years ago. I want you to describe your speaking style.
So I love to be engaging with the audience. I believe it's not about me. I'm essentially a conduit of some information and material, and what the company that's hiring me to impart with their team. And so I could come up with tons of different presentations and everything, but my speaking style is to engage with the audience, and what I like to reference as a career core value, or career core memory. And so when my audience engages in the presentation, they're a part of it, or they're connected to me in some respect, whether it's I get to talk to them, or I call them out, or talk to them before, during, or after, there's that engagement, and we have fun, and there's some humor. Nowhere near the level of Joel's humor, but we have fun nonetheless. So I, again, just clarifying mine as just fun, engaging, some humor, and hopefully my goal is to create that career core memory.
I love it. We're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll down your website, why don't you describe your perfect audience? Who do you like to speak to?
Oh man, I love to speak to all ages, but I truly love speaking to new leaders, because a lot of times I think they're fresh they have the wide eyes, and they're open to those aha moments, and they're open to just engaging. And so when you have that kind of audience that is engaging with you, they're invested, they're, kind of poking their neighbor saying, "Oh my God, did you catch that one point?" Or they're raising their hand. That is a great audience to engage with and be a part of.
Well, you're a prolific book author. We're going to pull up your book page. I wrote one book several years ago, and I swore I'd never write another one. How many have you written?
It's 15 books.
Is that right?
It is, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you come up with Super Fantastic? Because that seems to be your brand.
That is my brand, and actually that is my word. That's my who. And I went through this workbook myself, or
Yes.
as I was writing it, and so I identified the word super and fantastic as my word. I carry it around in my wallet. There's
Yes.
a card in my wallet that reads, "I am super fantastic." So I have it in me, but I also carry it around my wallet, and I share it with my audience. A lot of times when I'm speaking, I'll pull out my wallet. I tell them up front, I don't have any money because married and have kids. But I carry around my word with me because that's how important it is to me. And I want everyone to know my word is super fantastic. And that's a lot of people jokingly will refer to me as Mr. Super Fantastic just because I own that word. And when I walk into a room or an audience or a meeting or something, I will do my best. Now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I will do my best to bring the super fantastic. And I want everyone to know that's what to expect from me.
Well, and I love it that you walk your talk, because we all know speakers, we won't name them, who they speak about integrity, but they have some integrity issues in their own life. And so I feel like saying, hey, you should listen to your last speech.
And I believe that's part of the code switching, because a lot of us are one way at work, whether it be, at the office or at a presentation or whatever, and we end up being another way in our personal lives. And that's exhausting. And so my premise is be the same, both at work and both at home, because you got to give your best and you got to be who you are.
Yes.
And that is your gift. I so believe everyone has a gift. And when you equip it and steward it, then you become unstoppable.
And if you are just pretending to be somebody else as a leader, you're putting on masks.
Exactly.
And you're not authentic with your team, and they can smell
see
that.
it. They can see it. And they reckon. And usually your authentic self or your inauthentic self cracks. You start seeing that when there's trouble or when there's stress. That's when the true self comes out. So you'll see when somebody gets stressed or burdened with something, that's, making them crazy, you'll see the true person. And so I truly believe if you own that and you said, look, this is who I'm going to be, this is why I'm going to make the decisions I do, and this is how I'm going to operate, and that becomes you. No matter if it's stressful or a great day, that's who you are.
All right, you've written more than a dozen books. Give us another takeaway. What should we leave with?
So takeaway, I truly believe that once you own who you are and why you do things and how you're going to operate, then that can transform not only you as yourself, but everyone around you. And I believe the best gift you can give other people is the best version of you. And the only way to get to the best version of you is to truly own and understand your who, your why, and your how.
Brilliant. We've got about a minute left, so look into the camera on the left and talk to that business leader or association leader who needs to bring you in.
Yeah, so my name is Gary Gregory, and you can find my website is the Gary Gregory. There are some other Gary Gregorys out there, but I'm claiming to be the Gary Gregory. You can find all my information. I'm available. I've MC, keynote speak, seminars. I've got great books, some humorous books. I've written some satirical books on leadership, HR, customer service, and meetings. So have a lot of fun, engaging. I think I can bring a lot to your audience, your team, and your leaders, and help them equip and steward their leadership to the next level.
Outstanding. We're going to end with the website, which again is thegarygregory.com. Gary, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.